Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeyla, co-founder at Illumicell AI. We're doing fertility diagnostics at the point of care. And today we're actually going to talk about an adjacent topic, one of the most overlooked segments in healthcare, unfortunately, that's maternal health. We might take it for granted, but maternal health is in critical condition everywhere in the world. In the United States, for example, you have about 20 deaths per 100,000 live births, which is very high, the highest of all the developed nations. Whereas in developing countries, less than 50% of the population have access to clinical maternal health. So today, it's a very timely discussion. I am joined by a panel of impactful founders. Excited to have you here. And let's do a round of introductions. And can you tell us how your companies are contributing to improving the standard of care in maternal health?
Sure. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Jeyla. Thanks, my panel discussion panelist. Yeah, so my name is Chia-Pin. I'm the CTO and the group general manager of INEX INNOVATE. INEX INNOVATE is a Singapore company, homegrown technology companies develop the diagnostic solutions to address unmet clinical needs in women's health and fetal health. So we have a two part of business. One part is the running of the clinical laboratory, the CAP accredited and also Singapore MOH approved laboratory. So we offer the non-invasive prenatal testing and also associated genetic testing. When the other side of the companies, we develop the new diagnostic solutions to address ovarian cancer and also endometrial cancer, which actually we are launching the test in the United States. So hopefully maybe you can share more data.
Yeah. So Rubén Molina here. I'm CEO and co-founder of INNITIUS. We are a medical device company based in Bilbao, in the north of Spain. I'm a civil engineer by training, and we are developing a medical device that analyzes the cervical tissue stiffness using a technology that is coming actually for civil engineering field. And we mix this mechanical parameter with other clinical variables of the patient, of the pregnant woman, to provide an assessment specifically for preterm labor risk early in the pregnancy and also for induction of labor. So we are about to start with commercialization later this summer in Europe, and after that we will go for the FDA approval. So yeah, happy to be here.
Hopefully, last but not least, I'm Thang, based in the UK, but originally from Singapore, so it's great to be back here. I lived here for 15 years. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Calla Clinical Care, and we're developing a vaginal drug delivery platform. We have many use cases, but the first one will make us the world's first drug device product to prevent miscarriages.
Thank you. So while we were preparing for the panel, so many different topics such as access to care, the differences between the markets. So Chia-Pin, let's start with you. We discussed that launching in the US for you as an Asian company was actually a lot more transparent than doing so in the Asian markets. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about that experience and what you think are the key differences and perhaps something that makes US attractive to Asian companies as well?
Yeah, sure, certainly. So I think definitely the attractive, definitely one of that is the first thing that come to me is the market. So in United States, it's 300 million people. When actually, yes, in Southeast Asia, if we aggregate all the countries together, is huge. Having said that, a different country have a different practice. Different country has a different building system. Different country has a different regulatory frameworks you have to go through. So in order to tackle one after the other, I think the time, the efforts for us is actually, it's not just one to apply to all, it's actually 1 + 1 + 1. So that's actually, it's make me really think when the innovation comes to address those unmet clinical needs, launching a product in United States, which is actually new to me, is very challenging. Having said that, it is, say for example, reimbursement system is transparent. We know how to do, we launching start with the LDT. where we're getting the submission to AMA to get a pre-LA code. We're launching the test soon in California. The MoDX is also another one we have to get it. So at least it's very transparent. It's very straightforward. It takes time to prepare. Having said that, once we actually tackle the challenge, 6 months later, it has a very, very clear reimbursement systems in place. People who want to use our test, there's a reference codes they can actually build on that. Then from this, it's straightforward. Compared to here, regulatory frameworks, most of things are required as IVD. When US is still, in order to have the to put the innovation into the practice earlier and faster, they still have this LDT scheme. Although early last year there's a the discussion want to change it, but now it is still there. So for us, as an innovator, I think that is actually for us is an advantage to go into the market.
Thank you. And on a similar note, Thang, you've got a very compelling drug delivery technology that is relevant to every market in maternal care. And could you tell us a bit more about what's the difference here in Asia that you're seeing from the US or the European markets?
Sure. Again, we're based in the UK, and luckily we have an expedited regulatory pathway there. We only have to do a single pivotal trial showing bioequivalence because we're not inventing new drugs. We're delivering existing drugs. But it's a big challenge here in Asia, right? In terms of birth rates. Japan, government officials already visited our labs and offices. Japan, Korea, here in Singapore, there's just not enough babies being born. And I think one thing we're hoping to figure out here is to have an expedited regulatory pathway here, but it's not that straightforward. For example, in Japan, the PMDA there's conversations that the pace isn't fast enough. So I guess I would answer your question by saying that's part of the problem. You've asked what's the differences. There's too many differences. It is a crisis of not having enough babies, right? Japanese prime minister, everywhere he goes, he says the biggest crisis is not enough babies. Well, during a time of crisis, you should support companies that are doing things to facilitate IVF and to reduce miscarriages. So I guess I'd just make some comment about the regulatory pathway. Wouldn't it be a dream if it was streamlined? Then Chia-Pin wouldn't be going to the States. He could stay here in Asia and everything would be one single regulatory body. Look, this might be a bit of a pipe dream, but at times of war and crises, you really need to find, help people who are trying to solve your problems. So that's what I'm hoping to see, but it is very fragmented here. But there's such a need, and that's why I'm here trying to get support.
It's great to see so many companies innovating to fill in that gap, where regulatory is kind of failing us and making everything more difficult. We have innovators like yourselves filling in the gap. So Rubén, want to address this question to you. Your company has distribution in Southeast Asia, and there's 147 district hospitals in Laos, for example. And not everybody has access to OBGYNs. There's roughly 0.4 OBGYNs per 1,000 births. So how do you engage NGOs, the government, perhaps local population to help use your technology and identify any problems in maternal care before they occur to people that have not been trained as OBGYNs and are just helping out within the community?
Yeah, it's a complex problem because our company was born in Spain, where we have a healthcare system really centralized, and we have designed our solution for specifically OBGYNs for big hospitals. But then you try to expand the company to another region where everything is really fragmented and there is no access to healthcare. And it's not only about thinking about how you distribute your product, but also you need to change the entire process of designing your solution because the user is different. In Europe or USA, we might have OBGYNs, midwives, nurses, but here, in an island, you don't have these healthcare providers. So we needed to start rethinking how we designed our solution, and AI is helping us a lot there because we don't provide only the measurement of our intravaginal probe. We try to offer the user an actionable diagnostic by mixing let's say, the mechanical parameter with other variables of the clinical record of the patient. So this can be also applicable not only and used not only for by OBGYNs, but also by a kangaroo healthcare provider, because we show them actionable information, so they can decide whether if they should relocate the patient to the big hospital, they can treat the patient there, or even they can discharge the patient if there is no risk. And about distributing the product in those regions, we need to go step by step. Probably here in the APAC region, we might go first to Singapore and Australia, understand the social differences here, try to reduce the manufacturing cost of our product, and then step by step going to other regions like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, where the solution actually is most needed. And there we might need to partner with NGOs. The World Health Organization has a global program for that, for screening of premature labor risk. So yeah, I think NGOs might be the right partner for doing this.
Do you see the NGOs playing the key role or adjacent role in delivering better maternal care solutions? I know that, for example, in the United States, women's health, maternal care is extremely underfunded. So that's when we have to pull in other players. So maybe a question to everyone, like, do you see the role of foundations, NGOs as being critical to what you're doing? Or perhaps a similar question is, what needs to change, not just in the access, but also in regulation on a higher level to ensure that maternal care is being delivered adequately in different countries?
So I would like to say there that there is a problem not specifically with our solution, I guess, but with access to healthcare. Because, for example, we are talking about preterm labor, which is the leading infant mortality cause around the world, and we try to solve this problem by diagnosing it early enough. But we are facing problems like in some regions here in Asia, they don't even have ultrasound, so they cannot date the pregnancy. So what is preterm labor for them? It's and NGOs should play a key role there, providing not only our solutions but also other technologies that might improve the maternal health field.
I'd agree as well. Well, at the end of the day, every founder knows that your number one job is to keep the lights on, right? So if the funding comes from NGOs or foundations, wherever it comes from, I guess one of the tricky parts is some of these foundations, they do come with strings. We've applied for funding from the Gates Foundation over several years, and back in the day, they would insist that your IP had to be shared and disseminated for not-for-profit purposes. So that obviously didn't gel, but I think they've changed things. And in our space, we also play in the vaginal microbiome space. And the Gates Foundation did a $10 million investment in a company called Freya Biosciences. So they're getting into direct equity investment. So the more the merrier. People who will fund all the work that we're doing in the women's health space would be fantastic. So the answer is yes, wherever the money is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't have too much experience as working with NGO. Although we do, when we try to launch the ovarian cancer test in the developing country, which actually the particular test is actually intraoperative ovarian rapid test to detect the ovarian cyst. The doctors, the surgeon they're operating on is the benign or malignant. In a lot of setting, when we actually try to roll out this test in Indonesia, if it's in Jakarta area, yes, you know, those the hospital, they might have resources. We try to talk to another public hospital. They in nearby is probably 1 hour away by high-speed train. So it's one of the top 3 public hospital in Indonesia. And they share with us they only can access the current standard of care, which is something procedure called frozen section. They can only access from Monday to Friday before 3 p.m. So one of the doctors was actually validating this test. He is actually from a little bit rural area, and he shared with us he can only access that particular procedure or technique only 2 times per week. So that's the where he is actually seeing the our solution the intraoperative, the rapid test to determine the ovarian cancer, ovarian cyst is a benign or malignant, will be very, very suitable for that one. But having said that, is because all the fundings and all the if for the public hospital they want to use it, they have actually some kind of bidding system, and in order to get a government fund, in order to buy for it. So if this year government didn't have a budget for that, that means you cannot buy any single test in that particular year. So it's actually, to me, I would say it's actually very, very long process in order to do the implementation of the new technology. But with the maybe the some systems outside of public settings, I believe that will definitely be helpful.
One of the things that came up during our preparation is that, Chia-Pin, you mentioned that in Southeast Asian countries, because of cultural differences, sometimes religious differences, there are very few doctors, but female doctors are even more uncommon, and women don't want to see male OBGYNs. So you're kind of not just stranded by access to hospitals, but also by those cultural limitations. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Okay. Yeah. Yes. That's something. I've been in this women's health industry for almost 10 years. We try to launching like different maternal, also gynae oncology cancers detections. Yes, that's some things we've been seeing quite a lot. And it doesn't really say the, how do I put it, this the male doctors like dominate the market and those. Sometimes I feel maybe it's because of resources. So from this, on top of that, because of all these religions, especially particularly in Indonesia, which is a Muslim countries, there's some people they actually have a quite a big hesitate. So what I can see is changing, or like the government, they are trying to come out of innovation, is they try to see more and more rapid tests in that particular country. So they, for example, I've been asking asked by my partners in Indonesia, say for example, HPV testing, which we've been doing it in the developed countries, like regular practice, but in Indonesia it's still not regular. So even on top of this, they are looking at is there's any rapid test for HPV testing, which actually more discreet. Even actually people can do it in the in-house. And from this, at least, even, say for example, the sensitivity may not as high as the molecular test that we've been using. Still, better, you might miss 10 cases, you might miss 3 cases, but it's better than you to miss 10 cases entirely. Yeah, so I've been seeing there's more and more innovations coming out, and I think that definitely would help to address the different the genders and different practice under the religions.
So I want to engage Rubén and Thang here about the long-term potential of your technology to close gaps like these that are very market-specific.
Yeah, I mean, in our case, AI will play a crucial role because those differences also are there for patients, and traditionally, the physicians try to diagnose pathologies using a single variable approach. If they are using, for example, transvaginal ultrasound, they use just the measurement they do with the transvaginal ultrasound. If they use a biomarker, they use only the biomarker. And traditionally, also, they have some preconceptions, like ethnicity is associated with high risk, for example, of preterm labor, and the BMI, and so on. And until now, all those physicians just needed to think about the patient from an external point of view, while with AI, what we can do is to build models that actually, with the statistical support, can help them to make better informed decisions. So when they receive it, and from American patients, and they say, okay, this woman is going to have a higher risk of having a premature labor, now we can quantify this risk and mix it with other clinical conditions that may affect the risk, and automatize the process for them themselves. So the task of making a diagnostic is going to be much easier.
Thang, anything to add?
I just say that I like, with all of you here, we're really excited about the long-term prospects. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this unless we thought that there's a real chance of success, but not just in doing good, but real meaningful financial return. It's just unfortunate that people are slow to gauge the whole women's health movement and all the things that we're doing. But excited about the prospects. Just again, back to my earlier points about hoping for some regulatory support. How can we expedite these things? In our case, we're not delivering new drugs, but why is it still such a complicated regulatory pathway? It's just a more convenient way of delivery. Or for the diagnostic tests that you guys are both involved in, right? I mean, everyone knows preterm birth, for example, biggest killer of kids under the age of 5, right? So the impact is phenomenal. So I think I'm confident in all our prospects longer term. It's just that, at this time where funding is challenging, we could use a lot more support. So hopefully that will be forthcoming.
So cannot help but notice that we're talking about women's health. Here we have on a panel. All the panelists are male. And
Jeyla, you're in men's health, right? And
actually,
you're,
I'm in
of course,
men's health. So.
It's all good.
So we're discussing, there's like many different aspects of this. So what I hear from female founders is usually that, as a female founder, I struggle to raise money simply because I'm female. But we also discussed similar issues with men raising money for women's health. Rubén, you specifically mentioned, and could you share it with us here?
So the problem is that normally the statistics are there, like 80% of VCs are led by men, and you go there and you pitch them, and I mean, I'm a man also, right? So the first time I saw a cervix itself, which is the organ that separates the baby from the life, it was in this project. So I didn't know what was a cervix, I didn't know how it worked, and so forth. And when I pitched to a man, I get that they don't understand the real problem. We don't understand the real problem of having a soft cervix. But in the other hand, when I try to pitch with to women's health VCs, I'm a man speaking about the women problem. So I get the same question. What do you know about that? And they are right. I mean, actually, if I was not in this company, probably I wouldn't know about what means having a soft cervix. So, but at the end of the journey, I'm struggling with the fundraising,
So do you think there's some notion of, you don't know what it feels like, you don't really understand the problem, hence you cannot really solve the problem? Do you think there's...
Yeah, I mean, I'm suffering that so many men are there doing some mansplaining, but the thing here is that was part of my PhD. I'm not facing it from the main point of view, but as a technical founder that found a solution for such a problem. So I think that we shouldn't be seeing as a man or woman, but as somebody that is trying to solve a global problem that affects to more than 140 million women every year. That's the point.
So Thang, you come from investment banking world. You actually invested in the company first and then joined as a founder, which I find a very powerful story. Could you share a bit more about fundraising as an ex-banker turned founder in women's health?
Look, I'm not going to complain too much because it gives me a newfound appreciation for the reverse, where it's very hard for women to raise money, and that's commonly known. So I try to be as humble as possible because it's much harder on the other side. But yes, I'm a former Goldman Sachs investment banker and private equity investor. And so there's a lot of skepticism. Why are you in women's health? Why do you want to do this? It doesn't matter that I have 2 teenage daughters and I want to make a difference. But you're right. I backed this invention, put the first $1 million in, and then I was like, gosh, there's a real big opportunity here. But then people were still like, no, women's health, the drug delivery. And I was like, that always just riles me up. I'm motivated more when people say no. And so I became the CEO and the co-founder. But I will tell you the reality, both for men and women, it's not ideal. If you're fundraising, I assume, in men's health, sometimes you're a woman, what do you know, or vice versa. So we have this solution, we think, which is similar to you, is to have both a male and female co-founder. Then you've covered all your bases. It's always preferable that at things like this, I'm not speaking because my co-founder is a doctor, she's a woman, and she has that lived experience. But you're just stuck with me because she's in Amsterdam doing another panel. But yeah, no, there are challenges. There shouldn't be, but it is what it is, and we can't fix that. But I think with time, with more success in women's health companies, then people just not look at the sex of the founders and back us all. But But it's tough. It's tough for everyone now, but it just makes it more important to do it. You know, when it's harder, that means the prize will be bigger.
Chia-Pin, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, totally agree. I mean, it's the problem is a problem. You know, if we have a solution, we want to address that. Hope, you know, we hope we can actually get all the fundings and everything. Whether men's health, women's health, issue is the issue. Then we work together. We have a mixture of the teams of female, male. Even actually our main founder, the ONG doctors, the Thang just met this morning, is actually a male. But from this, we work together. We come up with solutions to address those things, and hopefully we can get more and more fundings to tackle all the problems we are trying to solve. Yeah.
Yeah, so generally for women's health, but also specifically for maternal health, maybe some closing thoughts on, you know, what needs to be done at what level, be it innovators, governments, NGOs. Where do you think the largest barriers are, and how can we also discuss this during LSI and try to fill in the gaps?
Okay, so I think this is actually I mean a big question because I think in different market there's a different barrier. I would say particularly for Southeast Asia, I would say regulatory is probably one of the biggest barrier because it's like what Ting talked about is actually quite fragmented. What Singapore here play actually a very, very nice role. Whatever the device or the treatment has been regulated, approved in Singapore, we start to have the bridging system. So, for example, it's one of my device is approved by HSA, and from there, I only take me about 3 months. I can get the Indonesia MOH approved, and it would take me about 2 months, and I can get the Australia approved. So from this, I think we are actually making the progress and try to work with the different countries. Even actually, I know the government-wise, they are also working with those big markets such as China. So once we get the approval from here, then we can start to have a certain bridging systems. I am actually very looking forward to that. Once the system is getting bring down the time, the frames for the regulatory approval, I think that would be much better for us to deploy the new solutions to the clinical community.
Rubén, maybe perspective of Europe versus Asia.
A quick one, yeah. I think that because we are almost out of time, but talking about what are the barriers we are finding, basically, apart from the clinical practice, is the fundraising. Fundraising is really tough, and I think that is because we are competing with really well-established markets like cardiovasculars, orthopedics, and so forth. And we should keep developing companies like ours, start having more successful exits, and then at some point, this might be a really established market, and we shouldn't have been speaking about women's health, but in general about health, as it deserves. Yeah.
Not much to add. I'll maybe elaborate on what you said, Rubén. I get frustrated sometimes about the monikers femtech or even women's health. Women's health is everyone's health. Everyone has a wife, a daughter, an aunt, a mother, right? And if you improve the health of women, as opposed to women's health, the health of women, you improve the health of everyone. And you can ignore all of us, but people should trust these smart people called McKinsey, right? They've published a report. There's $1 trillion of added value per year if you support women's health, right? So it's a complete no-brainer. And like I said, I'm not doing this for my health. I think this is going to be very successful, but funding is still tough. And people need to be brave. I'm frustrated. I mean, we all are, right? But half of my meetings here at LSI, they really like it, but they say, find a lead, right? But then no one invests in women's health. So someone has to be brave. I'm a former finance person. If you want outsized returns, you have to be different. You have to take some risks. And women's health is not a risk. It's a no-brainer. So, if anyone's watching this video or if those in the audience, I really, think financially, think about the big opportunity. And women are 51% of the world, right? It's a no-brainer to all of us. That's why we're here. But I'll finish by that. make sure you support and if you care about the women in your life.
When we build for women, we build for everyone. It has trickle effect from a woman to a family to economy to a better, healthier future. So it's a no-brainer. It's a fantastic economic opportunity. So yeah, we're just going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.